This is a 328 sedan parts car that Louie and I picked up for parts, obviously, as you can see by the lack of chassis. We both have sedans. He wants to put interior in his, and I just need some little things. But it's a 328 5-speed, tan interior. There's literally stuff falling off the car as I shut doors. It was a rebuilt title. I have a feeling it was crashed in the rear because the trunk was off of a red car. Everything seems straight enough, but with it being so rusty, we are just parting it out. And just to let you know that the deals are still out there, this 328 5-speed with a rebuilt title, which if you wanted to do some rust work, you could probably make it a decent car again, but we already have decent cars, so not really a need for a rusty chassis to be gone through. But this 5-speed 328 running and driving cost $500 with these sick 16-inch wheels on it. So the deals are still out there. You really just have to look. Today's task is pulling the motor. We're gonna see how quick I can do it. I don't have a hoist here that's able to be used with the lift. There is a chain fall in the shop, but obviously the car is over here and we can't get the chain over to here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect everything underneath, disconnect everything up top, put the subframe on jacks and wheel dollies, and just lift the chassis off of the motor. So that's the plan for today. I'm gonna set you guys up and time lapse this whole thing. I should be able to get it done in a couple hours, but we'll see. A good way to tell if the front end has ever been apart is on the radiator support, where it goes into the frame rails and the bumper mount. There's a spot weld here and a spot weld here, and then the same thing on the other side. There's a spot weld here and a spot weld here. So that's a good way to tell if you have a factory radiator support on your car still. These are also supposed to be studs. If it's a nut and a bolt, then there's a good chance that your crash supports in the bumper have been replaced. Hour and 12 minutes in, and my GoPro died. Must have not had a full battery, but I did not check that before I started, so I have no idea. So as you can see, it's all stock stuff, stock suspension. It did have a full stock exhaust. We already sold the cat out of it. We still have the muffler section and the front part of the mid pipe and the manifold. 5-speed is spoken for, along with the front half of the drive shaft. All of the other 5-speed swap parts, like the slave and the pedal assembly, all of that stuff is available. The chassis is just completely shot. There's no way around it. It needs way more than it would be worth. Got stock 328 axles. I'll have to clean off that tab to see what diff is in it. Definitely an open diff, most likely a 293. The bumper's in decent condition, trunk is in decent condition. It's got sick wheels. All the doors are in decent condition. So it's got decent parts, but I do have side skirts for it. The side skirts are in the car, so that's another thing that's available. This whole front clip is available. But let's get back to pulling this motor. The whole front end and top should be all set. Got my fan clutch tool, so that's gonna stay on for the moment. Got to remove the power steering pump. But actually all of that stuff I can do, well, at least the power steering pump I can do after, because it's connected to the subframe. I have to do the steering linkage, which is up there. I got to take that off. And I have to unbolt the front half of the drive shaft from the transmission. So just a few more things. I should honestly have the transmission out in the next half, or the whole drivetrain from the transmission forward. Should have it out in the next half an hour. This is always fun to do by yourself. Everything should be disconnected. The arm is touching the exhaust. I have to move the arm. This guy is on the exhaust. See this arm? Oh, it's actually still under the exhaust. Well, make sure it's just under the frame rail. Alright, I'm gonna go slowly and surely. Continue to check as we go. The last thing I want to do is rip some stuff apart. So here's the motor. Last night I got tired and definitely did not record the lifting of the chassis off of the motor, but here it is. Just gotta lift the motor with the chain fall, separate the trans, take the manifold off, take the subframe off, and put the subframe back in this so we can turn it back into a roller. Look at all the junk that came off this thing last night. What a mess. More stuff to look at when you're taking the car apart. There's normally a little 10 mil that goes in here, so you know that they've had the transmission off. That is not a factory bolt. And that is not a factory bolt. So you know for a fact that they've had the transmission off of this motor. Or it's a different motor and not the factory motor that came in the car. Or it's not the factory transmission that came in the car, but there's a few different things you can do. And check the VIN on the back of the head. That'll tell you if the motor was the original motor of the car. I don't know if there's a VIN. That looks like it was ground down at some point. I don't know if there's a VIN on the trans anywhere to help you verify, but obviously the 328s come with a ZF trans, so, and it is a manual harness. So, I don't know. I'll have to check the VIN on the car to see if it's the original motor. Could also just be they did a clutch job. You know, lots of things to think about when purchasing a car and going through a car that you've purchased. So that's going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I showed you some tips and tricks to look for when you're buying an E36. Again, the trunk, the interior, the nose panel, the motor, the transmission, and the wheels are all spoken for. If you're interested in any of the other parts, feel free to reach out to me through comments or on my Instagram at I Have Car Problems. It's the same thing as my YouTube, so hope you guys have a great night.